This is MuggleCast, the Harry Potter podcast discussing everything about J.K. Rowling's Wizarding World. Welcome to MuggleCast episode 344. I am Andrew.
I am Eric.
And I am Micah, I think.
Happy November, y'all.
Yo, y'all.
You know what this means? We're now 1 year away from Fantastic Beasts 2 and where to find them too.
Two beasts, two where? Find them?
Yeah.
Oh, well. Fast and
two,
Furious.
Two beasts, too furious. We are going to discuss a couple of interesting news items today. We've been getting these Wizarding Wednesdays from Fantastic Beasts social media channels, and they unveiled something really interesting that we kind of turned into a main discussion. So, looking forward to talking about that. Also, we have some great voicemails from people. We also have some text messages. We were just joking before the show that we're getting lots of text messages now, and it's just like what the cool kids do. Instead of email, they text these days.
Yeah, anyway.
Think about it. You know, AOL Instant Messenger is not going to be around as of next month, I think, right? So everybody's moving on to text messages.
Back in my day, we had to dial up, sign into AOL Mail, type a mail letter to MuggleCast.
My mom still does that, so.
Yeah, my mom also has an AOL account still that she uses.
Oh, my dad does too. I'm like, oh, Dad, switch to Gmail.
It's actually, AOL is closing too, I'm pretty sure. I saw a message, not when I logged in, but somebody else posted a message that said, it's not only AIM, I think AOL is going away, and so, actually, that reminds me, I have to tell my mom about her inbox.
I don't think so.
I'll look it up.
Don't scare all of the moms and dads.
Yeah, everybody tell your mom and dad that AOL, well, I'm going to, you know what, I'll fact check it.
We have to check in with our buddy Kevin Stack. I think he has the knowledge there. They're all owned by the same company. I
believe that is a rumor. That is not true. Eric.
Well, you know they're all the same company, right? Tumblr and Yahoo and AOL.
I don't know, but who cares?
Yeah.
Let's talk about some news, and then we'll get to this Wizarding Wednesday tease that I teased. We all know that for the past 2 years, I've been trying very hard to discover the truth about Lavender Brown. Is she dead or is she alive? We have known for a while that Pottermore, they didn't seem to have a firm answer. We've spoken about this before. I won't go back into it. But they really just admitted in the past week that they don't know if Lavender Brown is dead or alive. In a new article earlier this week about why Fenrir Greyback is the creepiest villain in the Harry Potter books, Pottermore section on Lavender's attack includes this gem. Hermione managed to throw Greyback backwards, but we never did find out if feebly stirring Lavender made it out alive.
Well, hold on a second. Who is determining that Fenrir Greyback is the best villain in the Potter series?
Creepiest.
This is the Pottermore correspondent, right?
You know,
this is
First off, I would disagree with the fact that he is the creepiest. I think Umbridge is the creepiest in the series.
I would 100% agree.
Well, there's different.
Well, she's a scarier villain, kind of. Well, no, not even scarier. She's more formidable. She's your straight-laced type villain, right? You know what you're getting with her. She's a dictator. She's horrible, but Fenrir Greyback you don't have nightmares about Umbridge as much as you would this werewolf creature who loves turning children into
that. You wouldn't have nightmares if you were put in her detention. You don't know what she's like. She's the cerebral villain. Greyback is...
Yeah, but she's not going to jump on you and savage you in the dark. Like, you're not going to be if you're in a dark forest, you don't need to worry about Umbridge, right? Actually, Umbridge needs to worry about dark forests. Let me just say
But are you more likely to be in a classroom or a forest?
Yeah.
If I'm at Hogwarts, I'm spending all my time outdoors.
Umbridge made by Skin Crawl in Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Greyback is like barely around in the series. I know Umbridge isn't around for much of it either, but she really creeped me out. So I would definitely say that the teacher that is lurking the halls of Hogwarts, who is gonna inflict pain upon your hand,
write you up for some for some infractions that she invented.
Right.
So this follows the theory, though, Andrew, that you had, which is that this article is composed specifically to troll us.
Some people have said that. I woke up. People know that I've been following this for a while, and I woke up to many people alerting me to this. And yeah, I it kind of is trolling. I don't think they're actually doing that. But I did tweet J.K. Rowling again to try and get answers, and still nothing. So, but it's just nice to know that Pottermore admits it now that they don't know either, instead of like kind of hiding away from the fact that they don't know. Yet it still boggles my mind that the Pottermore correspondent, which it's singular, but it's actually multiple people. They're freelance people.
Yeah.
They just don't write over to Pottermore and be like, hey, so what's the deal?
Yeah, I mean, this is a good article, actually, apart from the vagueness. I think it really outlines, Micah, some of the reasons you were talking about. You think Umbridge is scarier. It actually outlines, why, like, it makes a case for Fenrir. It talks about him transforming Remus into a werewolf. It talks about the fact that he'd attack anybody, and it talks about the fact he doesn't even need the full moon to do it. So, an argument is being made there. But on the whole, so it's a good article is all I'm trying to say, is people should read it. It is extremely funny that they end on Lavender Brown as if it's some sort of, cliffhanger or, intention.
Yeah.
Look, if they're making the case, I would hope that they would provide substantial evidence for their position, but I'm just saying I don't agree of him being the creepiest villain in the series, and I encourage our listeners to support me in this.
I support you, Micah. I'm your number one.
Thank you, Andrew.
Little other news, kind of a smaller item I wanted to bring up because I think it's really meaningful. This story kind of went viral a couple of weeks ago. There's a shelter in Orlando that decided to switch from breed-based categorizing of their rescue dogs to personality labeling. And how are they assigning these dogs personalities? Using the Hogwarts Houses. And they call it Pogwarts.
Pogwarts.
This is the Pet Alliance of Orlando. They recently begun sorting their rescues into one of the 4 iconic Hogwarts houses. And here's the best part. It's caused an uptick in adoptions year over year. So this is actually making a difference. And I just love how J.K. Rowling's houses that she made up 20, 25, 30 years ago are being used in a shelter, and more people are adopting thanks to this personality, these personality assignments. And like, what a great idea, because dog owners are curious about Hogwarts house their dog belongs in. And people obviously love Harry Potter. As you become an adult you still love Harry Potter. So it seems just like the perfect opportunity for people to adopt dogs. I love it so much.
Yeah, this is making it. This is almost using the language that people who would adopt dogs can speak, right? Because people have read, people are familiar with the Hogwarts houses. Some people are addicted to BuzzFeed quizzes determining what your house is. I won't name names, but it's really
Eric
special. Do I suffer from house uncertainty? I'm not sure anymore.
I don't think so.
Oh no, I just thought you were passive aggressively talking about yourself.
Yeah, possibly. But this photo of this dog here with just the Hufflepuff scarf draped over he or she and looking into the camera with the mouth open and smiling, like, I would adopt this dog in a heartbeat. If I were a Floridian and if I were anywhere near this animal, I would want it.
And the reason that this shelter and others are switching from breed-based to personality-based is because a lot of people just kind of get it in their heads, oh, I want this certain breed, I'm going to look for it everywhere. And so some breeds get unfair advantages in terms of adoptions, and I think this levels the playing field. And if, let's say, I'm a Gryffindor, and I'm looking to rescue a dog, of course I'm going to lean towards adopting a Gryffindor dog. Like, that would be so cool.
What I love
no matter the breed.
I love these photos where the owners or the adoptees are like wearing scarves at the house, and then they're next to the dog, who are also dressed like the Ravenclaw with the Ravenclaw dog and the Gryffindor. And the Gryffindor dog has like a little, I don't want to say like tutu or something around its neck, like a mane of confetti or something. Really, really, really adorable.
It's an Umbridge look.
Yeah, that's sort of an Umbridge look.
Like Umbridge.
Speaking of Umbridge, again, one of our listeners who's listening live, one of our patrons, Roshni, says, I don't know about dogs, but I can't see how my cats could be put into Hogwarts houses. There is no house for sleeping all the time.
Yeah, you know what? This Orlando shelter, they have cats as well, but they said they can't sort them into houses either.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
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 I mean, the house for sleeping all the time is Hufflepuff. I think I can say that as a Hufflepuff. Pottermore confirmed. But,
wow, interesting.
Yeah,
and why do you say that? Because they don't do anything?
No, not in terms of like, what's the word, lethargy or anything like that. But I mean, we have the coziest couches in our common room. They're just puff chairs, and I can see cats. You know, we're all about appreciating the fine points of life, including being unconscious for some of it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So if you want to learn more about this shelter, it's petallianceorlando.org. And a friendly reminder, if you can, consider adopting, rescuing. There's lots of dogs out there who need our help. I rescued Brooklyn. It was an amazing decision. Scary, but it ended up being amazing.
Brooklyn is the best, by the way. Can I just say, I came over to your house over the weekend, Andrew, and I swear I was scratching and petting Brooklyn for like 15 solid minutes. And he was standing there and taking it, and it was amazing.
He lives for scratches. That's all he wants.
Yeah, it was lovely. He's consistently the best dog I have been in close quarters with.
Thanks. Thank you. He says thank you, and you can come and scratch him anytime. Same thing for you,
Who's
Micah.
winning the House Cup, though, at Hogwarts?
Oh. I don't know. Once they all have homes, they got to have play dates, you know? House.
Yeah, they got to return and compete.
And get points for their house. There's so many ways you could take this. I almost want to combine this pet adoption thing with everything that Kyle is doing over on the West Coast. At Hufflepuff Teach, by the way, on Twitter, and just see what kind of fun competitions you could get into. And the sky's the limit. People using Harry Potter in new and exciting ways and for the good of these animals who are, adopted, and it warms my yellow and black heart.
No, it's definitely a really
that came out
really cool story.
My Hufflepuff heart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just wonder too, Eric, do you plug Andrew and my Twitter handles when you do other podcasts?
I plug at MuggleCast. Does that count? The bio has at
not really,
Sims
no, but okay. No, I just wondered.
Okay,
though.
all right. Well,
you should think about it.
I'm gonna make more of a point to do that. It's funny because I wanted to actually do another plug here before we get into our main discussion. On episode 320, I want to say 6, maybe, of MuggleCast, it was our Evanna Lynch guest starring episode. In that, we mentioned that she is going to be starting her podcast, which is a podcast about veganism. And I do believe, I have it on good word, that within the next week, that podcast will be live. So you'll be able to listen to Evanna Lynch's very own podcast, which she co-hosts with Robbie Jarvis, who also was in the Harry Potter series. He played young James Potter, I strongly believe, in Order of the Phoenix.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, I'm going to double check. Thank you, Andrew. But yes, so her podcast, Evanna's podcast, is finally coming out. It's called Chick Peeps. That's ChickPee, or 2 E's, P-S, Chick Peeps podcast. And actually, I've listened to the episode 0 that they're leading with, and it's just really interesting. So if you don't know anything about veganism, or if you're strongly opposed to veganism, listen anyway. Evanna makes it great and tolerable and fun, and it's actually extremely insightful. So
awesome.
That's coming out within the next week.
We'll put a link to it in the show notes this week or whenever it does end up being live.
Definitely.
So let's move into our main discussion now. This is related to a recent news item. Like I said, Fantastic Beasts' social media channels are doing these Wizarding Wednesdays. Get it? Alliteration? Wizarding Wednesdays?
It makes sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're doing this leading up to the release of Fantastic Beasts 2, which is still a year away. Some of them have been kind of random and pointless, but every once in a while there's been something interesting, and this past Wednesdays was actually pretty interesting. They released a photo from the set that depicts a sign in a scene promoting the book launch party of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. The event is being held at Flourish and Blotts, meaning in Diagon Alley. It's being co-hosted by Obscurus Books, Obscurus Books being the publisher of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. which is still so crazy because even the one that was released in 2000 said it was published by Obscurus Books.
Right.
And J.K. Rowling held on to this word, or knew all along that Obscuruses would play big roles in the story.
So, that's my first question for you, though, is it's being published by Obscurus Books. Is that just something that Newt came up with on his own? Because it would be highly coincidental that he would go to a publisher with the name Obscurus in the title.
Right.
Hi, I have a book and I want to create a publishing house. Help me.
I very much think I've always seen it as Newt's own company. Like, you publish under a company for liability reasons and, whatever. Boring. But I have a feeling that's his company. Like, there's probably a staff, like a small staff of 3 or 4 people. With magic, you don't really need that much staff to have a publishing house. I imagine you can just, magic the machines into working. My impression is that it is sort of like a small operation. But I gotta say, seeing it realized on film, it makes it more real. It was always an interesting, fun tidbit for readers of the book to notice. I know we had a field day when it was like pointed out after the movie, and we knew what an Obscurus was. To see that it was called Obscurus Books and it has an address in Diagon Alley, but I don't know how I feel. I'm so conflicted about actually seeing it, that this is the company in universe that he decides to either go with or create, that he calls it that, because Obscurus is sort of a dirty word, folks. Like,
yeah, and
yeah,
just thinking about it, in my mind, I can see Jacob in the streets of Diagon Alley, or looking at Newt's new book and like turning to Newt or one of the other two and saying, oh, Obscurus Books, funny, like,
well,
or like, real funny, Newt. How'd you come up with that one?
Yeah.
Like, some sort of quip or callback.
Yeah.
My only guess, and this doesn't really make sense, but like Newt was trying to find a publisher and he couldn't. Nobody wanted to pick up his book for some reason.
Yeah.
Which could kind of be a fun callback to J.K. Rowling's early struggles, because obviously we know she submitted her manuscript to so many publishers and they all turned her down.
I love that, Andrew.
So, but then the other question is, why would they turn down Newt's book? This is obviously very well researched, unless they think he's crazy and these beasts don't exist or something.
Well, that's the funny thing, is he's sort of, as he explains in the first movie, he's fighting an uphill battle in terms of educating his fellow wizards about magical beasts and this and the other thing. That's in a stark contrast with receiving a worldwide release party at Flourish and Blotts, which I'm assuming is the wizarding equivalent of like Waterstones. Right? Like, this is a huge celebration party, which is now, I think, confirmed to be part of the plot of Fantastic Beasts. So this is the biggest deal for me. I was just on J.K. Rowling's Twitter when I saw this, because I'm not 100% certain that I follow at Fantastic Beasts, but I saw it. J.K. Rowling just retweeted it. She didn't say anything else, but the tweet says, an author must have a party or something. What is it? I'm looking at it right now. A newly published author must have a book launch party. Newt Scamander has been busy, says the tweet. Yeah. And J.K. Rowling just retweets it. But I'm like, wait a minute. This is plot detail. Like, this is absolutely, like, this is right up there with Newt Scamander only meant to stay in New York for a few hours. Like, what J.K. Rowling... Like,
I don't know if it's on that level.
I think it is, because, like, the reason is the sign says the date. Saturday, 19th of March, 7 o'clock p.m. Like, this, we're getting the exact date that Fantastic Beasts 2... I'm not going to say we'll open on. I'm not going to be that hopeful, but if the book release party is part of the movie, we know exactly when in time it occurs. And
yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that it's huge to get this piece of information. I also find it somewhat coincidental, ironic, that this is the second Fantastic Beasts film, and if you go back to the second Harry Potter film, Chamber of Secrets, there was also a book signing at Flourish and Blotts.
Ooh. Oh, man.
Parallels. We're going to have to start a parallels page over on MuggleCast.
Yeah. Ring theory is going crazy now, you guys.
No, that's a good point. And that was, I didn't think about both of them being in the second film, but I was thinking about Lockhart's Flourish and Blotts event in Chamber of Secrets, and it'll probably remind us of that. I think one of the most significant things here is that this could explain how Tina, Jacob, and Queenie get over to England, because we've been wondering on the show for a while, well, what reason would they have? They've been established as core characters. We call them the core four. How are they going to get over to Europe, and why? Like, maybe Tina would make sense because she's now romantically interested in Newt, but the other two, it didn't really make sense. So this will be a good way to get them over there, and then my guess is that something bad will happen at the party or directly after the party, when the core four will all still be together, and thus Tina, Queenie, Jacob will stick around to help take care of whatever is going on, probably Grindelwald related.
Yeah, maybe the news of him breaking out of the States comes out when they're there. It's I don't know, it's so interesting, but like, it's only 3.5 months since the end of November when or December, when it's within 3 months of when the first film takes place.
Sure. And I would even go a step further and say not only bring the sort of core four together, but it's a release party. If you have family, chances are your family will show up.
Oh,
right?
snap.
Yeah. Theseus.
And how about Dumbledore as well? We all know the close relationship that they share with each other. Maybe you'll leave Dumbledore to Hogwarts, but there's always the off
How many
chance.
wizards can they fit? How many important people can they fit in this bookstore? Jeez.
Well, remember when Lockhart was there, how many people were inside? They could barely get up to have their book signed.
Yeah. Huh.
I am so proud of you, Newt. This is an amazing book.
It is our choice. You got to do that line.
It is our chapters, Newt. Far more than the pages within.
You know what I would really love too? It would be for there to actually be some of these beasts inside of Flourish and Blotts while he's doing the signing.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
that would be fun.
Yeah.
Like the
Well,
Niffler
also-
just like slaps his paw
Well, you
down.
can't let the Niffler out because he'll go straight to Gringotts.
That is true.
Well, there's also a store in Diagon Alley that hosts a lot of beasts, at least
The
in the theme
apothecary?
park. Huh?
Isn't it the apothecary?
Magical Menagerie.
Magical Menagerie, that's it. Yeah, so maybe like the after party can be at Magical Menagerie
Yeah.
with all the beasts.
Well, that
surrounding them.
makes sense because, again, it's about beasts, and I'm not sure. The other part that's kind of weird about it being Obscurus Books in reality and not just as like a playful nod on J.K. Rowling's part is that the Obscurus, although Newt has recently encountered it, so far as we know, the Obscurus is not, I mean, it's not a beast really, and it's definitely not covered in this book he's publishing. So you're naming your publishing company after something that is not necessarily relevant to your focus, because the Obscurus is not covered as a part of the book Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
But could it be in the movie? Do you think they might add it?
In the book? I mean, well, it's interesting. Again, even though the UK does not have the United States' weird kind of repression of magic endemic in the society, an Obscurus is still like I think it's safe to say it's a feared, parasitic dark force. Like, nobody's going to want to talk about it. It's sort of a faux pas naming your publishing company that. It would be like naming your publishing company like Nazi regime books or something. It seems like it would be taboo, kind of getting back to that. And like, this is why I just think it works extremely well as a nod, as an in-joke for like readers in the real world. But I'm so hung up on the fact that they've taken this over and put it on a poster that's going to be in the movie and that it's going to be some sort of reality. The other thing is that Dumbledore is such a private person, and we basically know that his sister was an Obscurus. But this is, again, being how private he is, you would almost think he would object to kind of throwing this term out in such a large public way. I don't know.
I have a hard time believing, with everything that's happened in the previous film, that there wouldn't be some level of research about Obscurus in his new book. It would, perhaps that even draws credence, right, to Diagon Alley. I think this is the opportunity to bring many, many characters to one location, and I think there will be something about the Obscurus in his book. I just because the printed version that we have doesn't have it doesn't mean that this version.
Well, they
won't.
just updated it. The version we have is an updated present day version, and it doesn't have the Obscurus in it.
But But again, we talk a lot about how certain things may not be included because they would give too much of the plot away. I think that could be the case here.
I think that's very true. But another takeaway for this is we will not only will we see Flourish and Blotts again for a signing, which is great, but we're going to see Diagon Alley in the 20s, in presumably 1927. And considering that the entire Wizarding World is basically a takeoff of medieval time with some modern elements, will it really look that different? What do we think about will Diagon Alley look? I really want it to, but, any of these British, narrow British lanes with shops on them that you could go to today in London do still look mostly the same as they did in the late 1800s.
We could see a difference in attire. That may be the most striking difference that we notice.
Kind of like the equivalent of seeing vintage cars on the streets in New York.
Yeah. Or I was also just going to say, this is probably what we can expect from Hogwarts as well, because they're both very ancient Wizarding World locations. So I think there will be subtle differences, but maybe the most notable differences will be what the witches and wizards are wearing. I always think back to Dumbledore's hat in Half-Blood Prince, I think it was, in the flashback. No, maybe it was an earlier film. Maybe it was the Richard Harris Dumbledore. He's wearing a smaller pointy cap.
Oh, yeah.
Do I have that right? And so I think of stuff like that in terms of showing the earlier Wizarding World.
Well, I think it's safe to say, I like that idea, and I think it's safe to say that Colleen Atwood, Academy Award winner Colleen Atwood, costume designer, has a lot of work to do, creating that effect, especially if the surroundings and the sets are kind of going to have to look the same, to use costumes to distinguish. I hope she's up to the challenge. I think she will be. I mean, she really crushed it in the first Fantastic Beasts film.
And you know who else this also benefits?
Who?
Wizarding World theme park.
Oh,
hey, Diagon Alley, as seen in the latest movie.
Oh, crud! They could really do that, couldn't they? They can disguise it as the 20s. Oh,
what?
Oh, wow. I mean,
I don't think they're going to make any changes to the theme park. I'm just saying that it'll be good promo for the theme park because Diagon Alley is sort of relevant again if it was seen in the most recent movie.
So you don't think they'll throw a bunch of 20s ads and book release announcements in the actual theme park?
Heck no, because the Wizarding World parks exist now in the post Voldemort timeline, except for the attractions. But it's kind of like a happily ever after setting at this point.
I always think of it as a good reason to get Eddie Redmayne to show up in Florida, in Orlando.
Yeah. It would be fun if they did something, but I don't think they will because they right, they're not even selling the Fantastic Beasts script book in the stores, right? We've talked about this before.
There is very much a disparate, it's completely separate actually. The Fantastic
separate
Beasts,
timeline, right?
Yeah.
Right.
There's nothing the theme parks have surprisingly still nothing to do with Fantastic. It's like a different franchise. They almost need different movie rights to it or something.
Yeah, but still. It'll be good promo because Diagon Alley. Oh my God, I just saw that in the movie. Let's go to the Diagon Alley theme park.
Oh yeah. Well, definitely if you're watching at the Universal City Walk Theater there, which I've just figured out where we should be next November. You guys, we should totally go down there and then walk over to Diagon Alley right afterwards.
You can't actually see it, but in the window there's a little sign that says "Join us in Orlando."
Next Wizarding Wednesday, we'll see that.
Yeah.
One other thing, though, that I thought was interesting, just given timelines, right, is that we've now passed the point where Voldemort is technically back in the picture.
Right.
So he was born on December 31st, 1926. This book signing is taking place, as Eric, you mentioned, March 19th, 1927. So He's a little young, but Tom Riddle is now back in play.
Yeah, Tom Riddle was born, I think, within a week of when the last film ends. It's definitely within a month. But yeah, this is a world with Tom Riddle in it, and there's still 18 further years between now and 1945 when Dumbledore eventually defeats Grindelwald for good. The next 19 years of film, it's worth pointing out, as you just did, that Voldemort is very much going to be alive, and by the end of it all, he'll have opened the Chamber of Secrets and maybe have some followers that call themselves the Death Eaters. So it's a big deal that this is now a Voldemort present world.
No wonder it's going to get darker with this sequel.
I love the idea that Theseus visits his brother for his party. I mean, he works at the Ministry of Magic just next door in Diagon Alley, right? And he's just like... I just worry about all the time that they're going to need to do these characters justice and
introduce them
and show their relationship. And I hope everybody has enough to do in this film. I really love it.
I'm Theseus. I was supposed to be in movie 1, but I was pushed to 2. Nice to meet you.
Remember that note I wrote you, brother? Did you get my note?
You saw it in the Lego video game, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Of course I did. But I think this just provides the opportunity for so many characters to come together, and not just with Flourish and Blotts, but knowing that we're going to Hogwarts, there's those opportunities to really throw a bone to Potter fans and bring back characters, younger versions of characters that maybe some we won't expect to see. We're going to be surprised.
McGonagall's definitely alive. Professor Binns is most certainly around. We could see Peeves, although actually listeners have pointed out that Rick Mayall, the actor who we were talking about last week, did pass away, unfortunately. So if Peeves were to, for some reason, show up in these films, he would not be played by the same actor that they originally tested on movie 1. But I mean, you're right, Mike. Like, seeing these characters in unexpected ways is definitely quickly becoming a reason to go see these films. Although the core four still stand out, I want to say. Like, I still want to see the film for them.
Getting back to Voldemort for a second, now being in this world, Tom Riddle, wouldn't it be crazy if the cold open of this movie was just like a baby being born? Like, you just hear like,
I can't.
And then nobody knows what it is. I mean, like, people like us will know, but everybody will be like, "What the heck was that?"
Yeah. Well, I imagine, like,
I am the Dark Lord.
Do you remember the way that have you guys seen the Super Mario Brothers movie? The live action.
No, I don't watch bad
live
movies.
action. Oh, you don't watch bad movies? Okay, fine. But it very much it begins with what is it? Oh, Princess Daisy's mother. Not to spoil anybody. But yeah, dropping her off at a convent, and it's an egg, but a baby comes out. Anyway, just imagine like Merope Gaunt, like giving birth and passing away. It'd be a very somber way to start the film, indeed. But ultimately, I think they should be focused on Grindelwald for quite some time still, and I really think now that the film will probably open with Grindelwald's escape. Like, if I had to guess, if I had to write an imaginary fanfic screenplay of how it's going to open, it would show Grindelwald escaping from America and our heroes finding out about it during the party in Diagon Alley. Like, I think it would go straight from America to the Flourish and Blotts party with the announcement being made. I'm thinking a la Kingsley's Patronus at the Weasley wedding, crashing down and saying, the ministry has fallen, or Grindelwald has escaped,
Yeah.
I think something like that.
Voldemort is my past, present, and future. You're a fool, Harry Potter. You will lose everything.
It is.
Avada Kedavra.
It is all happening in London, though. London is, and this is the second, because Riddle's orphanage is in London, too. But this is the second or the third confirmed location for this next movie, as we've talked about. Hogwarts has been confirmed. They were filming in locations that we know have been used in the past as Hogwarts corridors. We're seeing Flourish and Blotts, which is confirmed by this most recent thank you hashtag Wizarding Wednesdays. And Paris is confirmed, which is presumably where they'll meet up with Newt Scamander. Or not Flamel. Nicholas Flamel.
Nicholas Flamel. All right, let's move on.
Have some coffee, please.
Watch this space for more info concerning Diagon Alley and Newt's release party.
Oh, and the circus. That's another location that is basically strongly confirmed, right?
More or less, yeah.
That it'll be a thing.
The poster, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to some voicemails now.
Woo-hoo.
It's always great to listen to these. Thank you to everybody who is calling us. We'll give you the number at the end of this segment. We're already off to a bad start, though, because it looks like I put in a typo. Oh, here we go. Here's our first voicemail.
Hey, MuggleCast. My name is Kara. I'm from California. I just wanted to call in and just for one say that you guys are all sorts of amazing. I've been listening for about 10 years now. I'm 23. And I also was one of the winners of the illustrated edition of Prisoner of Azkaban. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. Honestly, it came at a time that I was just having a completely terrible week, and I came home to that, and it was beyond.
And then it cut out. But thank you. That was a sweet voicemail while it lasted.
That was totally self-serving. Yes, we have giveaways for our patrons who are at the Slug Club level. Check that out over on patreon.com/MuggleCast. Hey, it's really nice to hear that it arrived, and especially in a time when it was needed.
Yes, exactly. I thought it was sweet.
And
sorry your voicemail got cut out.
It blows me away. It blows my mind that people, and we get this quite often, but people who have been listening since the beginning of our show, it feels crazy to think like she was 13, Kara was 13 when she started listening, and now she's 23. It's unbelievable.
And here's a relative newbie.
Hey, Andrew. Hey, Eric. Hey, Micah. My name is James. I'm from Santa Cruz, California. I've been listening to the show a little over a year and a half now. I just want to tell you guys how much I really enjoy listening to MuggleCast. It's just really a lot of fun. I travel a lot. I'm in a few touring bands, and so I'm always sure to have my podcasts on and downloaded, and usually around the time every time you guys put one out. And it just really helps me to get through that time and enjoy listening to something that I really enjoy. I retouched base with the Harry Potter franchise after taking my son to the Wizarding World in Los Angeles. He's a doppelganger for a young Daniel Radcliffe, and so we put some glasses on him and a cloak and walked around the Wizarding World and tried to avoid too many tourists taking pictures of him. But we have been able to really bond over the Harry Potter series, and the illustrated editions is how I've gotten him into it, also finding some downloadable versions to read to him on my phone. So we've gotten through Prisoner of Azkaban and kind of are stopping there until he gets a little bit older. But before I ramble too much, I know you guys don't like that, I'll end it shortly. Thank you guys so much for continuing to do what you love to do, because it's really great. It's inspiring. So keep on with it, and thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, James, from Santa Cruz. I love hearing how our listeners, especially, are introducing their children to the Harry Potter series, and I love to hear that he's using the illustrated editions to do so. We'd love to see a picture of your son dressed up as Harry Potter in the park. And you know what's interesting about that? I've heard that a lot of people go to the theme parks looking for a Harry Potter character because, you know, you go to Disneyland,
right,
you find Mickey Mouse, so people go to the Wizarding World thinking, oh, where's Harry Potter? Where's Ron? And they don't have those characters. So I can totally see this situation occurring where people get excited to see a little Harry Potter in the park and take a picture with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Now I'm just imagining a Hogwarts, like a breakfast at Hogwarts with a Harry, a Ron, and a Hermione that you could pay for.
Meet and greet the characters.
Meet and greet the characters.
Universal shouldn't do the Hermione though. They're pretty bad.
Hermione. Yeah, they should just give up on including Hermione in anything.
We're referring
Eric,
to her voice on the train. It's really bad.
You could definitely go there as Professor Lockhart. You were doing a pretty good job a couple months ago.
Thank you. You know what? I should send yes, my resume. I'm going to send that to Universal, and they can have me down there anytime.
All right. We've heard from this guy before. Let's hear from him again.
Morning, fellas.
Morning.
I ain't talked to y'all in a minute, so I reckon I'd call in. This is Ryan again. Not Ron, Ryan. Y'all talking all this stuff about Cursed Child and whatnot, and I've had the book since it came out, and I tried reading it the first time a little over a year ago. Couldn't make myself do it. I didn't get maybe a third of the way into it. Finally sat down the other day and read through it, and I gotta admit, not nearly as bad as I first imagined, and not nearly as bad as everybody makes it out to be. Once you get through maybe the first third of the book, Scorpius stops getting on my nerves, and he kind of mellows out. Anyways, just saying maybe a little bit more positive about Cursed Child. It's not nearly as bad as everybody thinks. Y'all have a good one. Bye.
Take that, haters.
Us. Take that, us.
Ryan has spoken. Yeah.
I think I probably will reread Cursed Child before we see it on Broadway, which is
Good.
It's we should not to give it another chance. Let me be real. I want to keep fresh in my mind all the flaws that I have with it has, so that when I see it, I can be mindful and not be completely taken away by how beautiful everything looks on stage. But you know what? Like, there are good moments, and on the whole, it is a story that has a beginning and a middle and an end, which I typically like to read stories that have a beginning and a middle and an end. So it's nice that Ryan was able to. We're so pretentious. I'm being so pretentious right now. It's great if you read the book and you find things that you like about it, and you find that it's not that bad.
I would love to read it again before seeing it, but unfortunately I had to get a 7th job to be able to afford the tickets that Eric signed us up for. Here is.
I thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna say you returned your book to Barnes and Noble to get stored.
That's ill. I got $20 back. Oh, speaking of returns, I brought up on a recent episode, I think last week's episode, that I didn't like the complete collection on Kindle. So I was trying to read it again the other day. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and I was so annoyed that I wrote to Amazon. I did their live chat, and they actually gave me a refund. They weren't supposed to, because it was past the refund period, but they were like, we'll make an exception. And so they sent me the money back, and now I'm buying the books individually. So, problem solved.
And, do the books individually now have that feature where they tell you what percentage of the chapter?
Yeah.
Oh, so you've tried it?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, great.
Loving it. Okay, here's another voicemail.
Hi, guys. This is Dave. I have a question about Grindelwald and Horcruxes. I know Eric doesn't think Grindelwald made any Horcruxes, and I don't recall where Andrew and Micah stand, but my question is this. If Grindelwald did create at least one Horcrux, doesn't that mean Voldemort effectively liberated him from Nurmengard when he used the killing curse on him? The scene and what we learn of Grindelwald's character in later life reads quite differently if we think he might be tricking Voldemort into killing him without considering the implications. Grindelwald knows how self-absorbed and self-aggrandizing Voldemort is. He would never consider that someone else might also have the same death-defying power as him. And we know he never did because he killed Grindelwald without any trepidation. What if that was all by Grindelwald's design? I'd love to hear what you guys think of this idea. See ya.
Cool idea, but wouldn't that mean that Grindelwald was still alive?
Yes, it would.
So,
wouldn't that be the best twist ever?
That he's been alive? And then what, though?
Well, all was not well. Cursed Child 2,
right,
the return of Floaty Grindelwald.
I agree with Eric. You've brought this up before, but I don't think that Grindelwald is after immortality the way that Voldemort is. So I don't see him dabbling in the Horcrux business. I think it would be too much
repetitive, like
the Potter series. And I think we've done a good job when certain things have come up, even things that we've suggested, of saying, well, I think that's a little bit too much like what's already been done. I think enough needs to be told from a story standpoint that does not overlap from a major plot perspective with the Potter series.
I want to say, though, Dave, I love this idea. Like I love it. I now subscribe to it because you're right about Voldemort being reckless and not considering the circumstances. And I would love if that were Grindelwald's plan. To answer your question, it would free Grindelwald from Nurmengard. But he would probably succumb to the sort of fate that Voldemort had for about 11 or 12 years, where he'd be like a floating vapor because he doesn't have a body. So even though he would still technically be in the world somehow with his soul, he wouldn't be latched on to any particular form. And the question then becomes, is that how Grindelwald would choose to live? And unlike Voldemort, I think he probably wouldn't, but genuinely I think it's a brilliant kind of idea and proposition. So nice work on that.
Let's play one more voicemail today.
Hey, MuggleCast. My name is Sham. I've been listening for a long time, like 9 years. I think the first episode I listened to was the 1 year anniversary of Deathly Hallows, the book coming out. So that was a good episode. So I've never emailed or sent a voicemail before. I just wanted to call in to, this is kind of a nitpick, but I just wanted to call in to make a correction to the Quizzitch question from episode 341. You said, which Hogwarts student once lost an eye in an encounter with the Whomping Willow? And you said the answer was Davy Gudgeon. But I just wanted to say that he didn't actually lose an eye, he almost lost an eye. And that was just according to the HP Wiki. So I'm assuming that's actually correct, because the people who work on that wiki are pretty diligent. But yeah, I know that's a nitpick, but I just wanted you guys to know that. And also, I just wanted to agree with what Irvin said on episode 341 about his favorite Bertie Bott's every flavor bean being the grass one. I can attest to that. The grass one is really good. It's way better than you might think. The only problem with Bertie Bott's beans is that some of the flavors look a similar color, and I have definitely eaten my fair share of vomit when I thought they were buttered popcorn or toasted marshmallows. So, yeah, okay. I've rambled long enough. Bye.
Thank you, Sean.
That is the worst. The thinking of your flavor, like your favorite flavor of Bertie Bott's beans, is a flavor that it turns out not to be. That's the worst.
And this voicemail made me wonder, like, where do you even get Bertie Bott's flavored beans? Like obviously the theme park, but where else? I'm seeing Jelly Belly sells them directly on Amazon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great reviews as well.
Are we talking about grass or grass?
Grass.
Oh, Micah.
Fresh cut grass, Micah.
Yeah. Okay. Like mow the lawn.
Well, I mean, it would explain why everybody's like, yeah, it's the friggin' best one out there.
Yeah, man.
They're not edibles, Micah. I mean, they're edible, but they're beans, man.
This is a children's series.
Super funny. But thank you, Sham, for your correction. I concede that my Quizzitch question may have been misleading. I'm not sure if... I mean, I...
Blame it on your 12-year-old self.
My 12-year-old, whoever was.
You were.
It was a transcription error. I was reading the passage in the book saying... nearly lost, glad Davy Gudgeon nearly lost an eye, and I either read it wrong or I wrote it down wrong to ask the question, which student nearly lost an eye or did lose an eye. But regardless, I don't think anybody turned in and said, nobody did. It was Davy almost did or whatever. But it's my bad. I will concede. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for the note.
We forgive you.
Yeah.
We forgive you. Yeah. If somebody else, if you want to call in, our number is 1-920-3-MUGGLE. That's 920-368-4453. If you're abroad, you got to put a 1 in front of that number. And try to keep your message around 90 seconds-ish. And make sure the voicemail goes through the whole way. We also got some text messages. Wow.
These text messages that we have sourced for this episode are truly great. And quite lengthy. I'm surprised that people's text messages don't cut off more than they do, actually. But
all right,
True.
Micah, you want to read the first one?
Yeah, so again, another anonymous texter. Definitely make sure you throw your names in there so we can give you the proper credit.
people are used to not including their names in text messages, but we don't have you in our address book, so you gotta...
Yeah, let's just tell everybody their phone number. We can do...
Yes, if your phone number is... so this person says, I was listening to a recent episode of Dear Hank and John when the topic of the ship of Theseus came up. I remember you all discussing the name Theseus as it relates to mythology, but I think this philosophical angle actually has a lot more to offer in terms of theories for the next Fantastic Beasts. I would love to hear your thoughts on Theseus and identity crisis. Here's a YouTube link to the most succinct description of the paradox I could find. So I don't know if we can play that.
I love this. We could play it. Do you want to, Andrew?
Yeah, I can do that.
We learned about this in Philosophy 101 in college. I totally forgot about this.
And it's also somewhat funny because the scene with Newt and Theseus's letter was supposed to take place on a ship.
Right. Okay, here it is.
Welcome back to 90-Second Philosophy with Carneades.org. Today we're going to be continuing our series on philosophical paradoxes with Part 2, the paradox of Theseus's ship. This is a paradox for the idea of identity. Identity is basically, what do we have as far as criteria for telling that something is the same over time? How can I tell that something is the same at one time or at a later time? So imagine Theseus has a ship. It's made up of some planks, a mast, and some sails. Along the course of his journey, one of the planks is rotten, and Theseus has to replace it. Is it still the same ship? I think most people would say a single plank being replaced. It's the same ship. But what if we replace another plank? Or some more planks? At what point does this ship become no longer the same ship? When the last plank has been replaced? If you had the intuition that this is still the same ship, what would happen if someone took all of those planks, the mast, and the sails from that old ship and made another ship? Which one of these ships is now Theseus's ship? Being a good skeptic, I'm not going to solve this problem for you. I'll leave that up to you dogmatists that want to believe in concepts like identity.
You guys get it?
I get it, but I don't get the connection. How would this play in?
So assume that Theseus is injured and perhaps like heavily injured. We speculated previously that because he is the wizard that the Ministry of Magic has appointed to hunt down Grindelwald, to actually get him, that, you know, Grindelwald will overpower him and harm him in some way. So if Theseus suffers an injury where part or most of his body has to be magically repaired, or he'll have like a leg like Mad-Eye Moody's, or an eye like Mad-Eye Moody's, or something like that, this paradox could potentially inform his character further. Like, maybe even memory loss. Maybe even like, some sort of amnesia after an attack. Maybe not in Fantastic Beasts 2, but further down the line, if Theseus is injured and is basically in such a... I'm getting so depressed while thinking about this, but has to... Like, the question is raised, is it still Theseus after his injury, after his memory has been, I don't know, magically repaired, or something like that?
Okay. So for us to go along with this, we have to assume that J.K. Rowling is actually aware of the ship of the Theseus.
I'd be surprised if she wasn't, because this actually, I mentioned, we did this in Philosophy 101. It's a perfect example of concepts of identity. And it's relevant to Harry Potter in other ways too, like sorting into Hogwarts houses. Like, are we the same person because we were sorted into a certain house or not, and we grew up with that?
I imagine J.K. Rowling is going to be building a Newt and Theseus arc, and I think we've speculated in the past that Theseus could potentially die as he tries to fight Grindelwald as well, but it also might be awkward that we know Theseus was after Grindelwald during the course of the first movie, even though we didn't see him, and now Newt caught Grindelwald before Theseus did, which is kind of awkward. Like, oh, you weren't even trying, and yet you did it. So maybe Newt and Theseus will be working together, and then, maybe Theseus will be getting a grave injury that might change who he is, and it'll be sad.
It's funny, when you said arc, I thought you meant Like
Noah's Ark.
they're going to build an ark together, and the beasts are going to come on.
They have their own ship. I mean, they might be traveling a lot between England and America, so just get your own boat and bring them all.
I wonder, going back though to the first film and the fact that we didn't see Theseus, was there this idea that perhaps, Theseus would have had a similar role to Graves? Because the whole sort of paradox that they present here reminds me a lot of Polyjuice Potion, right? So you're sort of taking away elements of the person and building a completely different one. Mm-hmm. And you could say the same thing for an Obscurus, right? You're extracting this magical portion of the person, and if you take that and you put it completely into another entity, is it still the same person? So I think there's a lot of stuff here that you could potentially dive into. And we know, as this anonymous person mentioned, J.K. Rowling is very familiar with mythology, so there's the chance that all are part of Theseus in Fantastic Beasts 2 could very much be tied to that side of it as opposed to this, but I like this one a lot more.
Yeah. Our listeners are super smart.
Yes, they are. Smarter than us. Another text message here. This is from Allie. Just wanted to let you guys know that I went to my first Harry Potter trivia tonight and placed 6 out of 30. Ooh. It was me and my boyfriend, Jacob, and he doesn't know HP at all, so it was basically just me. I was very proud. Our team was Ravenpuff because I'm a Hufflepuff, and he's a Ravenclaw. Love the show. That's great. Nice job.
Yeah.
I could never go to a trivia night with only 2 people. I need a big team to support me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what's happening now? Eric and I have been to 2 trivia nights, and I just told him about a third that we're going to go to later this month. And I'm rereading the books right now, and I'm like, oh, darn, I really can't skim. I have to pay attention to every little detail because any of this could come up in these trivia nights because they ask the most obscure questions sometimes.
Yeah.
So going to these trivia nights forces you to pay attention to every word of these books.
Yeah, I will never be able to read Goblet of Fire Triwizard Tasks without taking meticulous notes about who gets what dragon and who uses what charm to escape the mer people ever again, because the people who devise this trivia know exactly where my blind spots are, and they exploit them, and that's why we haven't won yet. But bigger groups of 6 people is the max is best to up your chances.
Read the next one, Eric.
Yep, this is from Natasha. She writes, I was listening to this week's show this morning on my way to work and started nerding out in my car once Eric said, "Where were you on December 30th, 1990? Because that's the day I was born." I haven't been able to see Diagon Alley Edition to Universal yet, but I'll be going in early December, so I'm even more excited now. I also wanted to mention that I live in Houston, and they recently held a Harry Potter pub crawl here. It was so much fun, and if it comes to your town, I definitely recommend it. Okay, that's all. Bye. So, Natasha was born on December 30th, 1990, which is when J.K. Rowling drew that picture of Sprout as indicated in the book, and as is illustrated furthermore by the story that she tells, which we talk about in bonus MuggleCast. J.K. Rowling has a very, very heartfelt story about that day, and spoilers, it is the day that she found out her mother had died, which dramatically influenced the course of the Harry Potter series. So, not to get, too much on a downer note, but December 30th, 1990 is a very special date for J.K. Rowling, and yeah, I don't know.
People can listen to our discussion of that over on patreon.com/millennial. And Natasha,
Wait,
it sounds
millennial?
like you need... Sorry. Patreon. People can listen to our bonus MuggleCast discussion over at patreon.com/MuggleCast. And Natasha, it sounds like you need to get a tattoo of J.K. Rowling's Professor Sprout drawing and or the Deathly Hallows.
And you might be J.K. Rowling's mother reincarnated if you believe in that sort of thing.
Oh, that's a little weird.
Isn't that weird?
That's a little weird.
That's a little weird.
Right. The next text message comes from Matt, who says, "Hey, MuggleCast, Matt here from Winnipeg up in Canada. I'm a 24-year-old music student, and my first MuggleCast episode was 79. I'll always remember that it was called Old School Dumbledore. I actually used to do transcription work for you guys back in the day. Sorry, Micah, I totally lied to you and told you that I wasn't 13, so I could work for you guys.
Wow.
I was just that into MuggleCast. Just wanted to say good job at getting the podcast up nice and early on Monday mornings, although it isn't quite early enough for my walk to uni in the morning. It is perfect for my walk back to my car after class. After mind-numbing music history and theory lessons, it is great to switch gears and listen to MuggleCast. Keep up the good work. If you ever want to open a Canadian MuggleCast studio, I'm your guy.
Huh.
Thanks, Matt. We're happy to hear that.
Micah, your security steps were flouted by this guy.
Clearly.
How do you feel about that?
No comment.
No, we're taking steps to ensure this doesn't happen again, right?
That's why we got rid of the transfer.
Too many people were abusing it and joining the ranks when they were too young.
Yeah, that's awesome. And our last text message today, this is from Holly. I've been a listener since 2010. Y'all have been a great and constant part of my HP fandom experience since then. I was just listening to your latest episode and was affronted by another text message voicemail you'd received, so naturally I had to voice my complaints. I happen to agree with most of you that Cursed Child is awful, but even if I didn't, I wouldn't try to stifle your opinion on the matter. Micah's sarcasm and Eric's rare saltiness towards some aspects of the play have made me laugh quite a bit. Fandom, like any community, thrives on discussing different viewpoints. I, for one, enjoy grumbling about things that don't matter so much, like an opinion over a Harry Potter fan play. It keeps me from losing my mind from constantly fighting people over the current political climate. Obviously, you don't have to read this on the show. Oh, too late. But like Sir Cadogan, I felt like I had to step forward and defend your honor. Cheers and thanks for everything. I'll try to find some chocolates for Eric that won't melt in the mail. So yeah, I agree with that. Fandom thrives on discussion, and I think part of loving something so fiercely is that you are protective of it, and thus you sometimes have a hard time agreeing with decisions that are made. That's normal. It's okay.
Also, our positions can change. I think once I reread Cursed Child, it may be true that, like Ryan, we decide that it's not so bad after all.
I love Cursed Child. I'm saying it right now, and I'm sticking with it.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
I would just agree with what Holly said, and Andrew, what you said as well, is just that this is all about discussion. We're all here to throw out different viewpoints, and sometimes we bring up viewpoints that maybe we don't necessarily agree with, but we want to throw out there so that it just kind of informs the discussion a little bit more. And I think part of it is like, not that we're necessarily characters, but we're personalities, and I think that, you know, a lot of times we continue along those personalities on the show, and, you know, if it makes sense for Eric to be salty or for me to be sarcastic, I think we're just going to throw something out there to just kind of add to the discussion. So
yeah,
I think with that said, though, we respect everybody's opinions, and, you know, if people disagree with us, we're going to read that too, but we just ask that they be as respectful of us as we will be of them. How's that?
Absolutely.
Yep. Works for me.
Live and let live, as Dumbledore always says when he's up on stage with Paul McCartney.
I was going to say, is he in Wings now?
Yeah.
It's time for some Quizzitch. Last week's question was, how many died in the Battle of Hogwarts on the side of Hogwarts and the Order?
Lavender
we are
Brown
not including Lavender, right? Is that what I said last week?
I can't remember.
Well, you can decide for yourself. Micah and Eric, guess the actual retail price without going over.
Well, do we need to name them, or we probably don't have time to?
No.
Wait. The retail price without going over.
Price is right. So if you go over the correct answer, you're disqualified. You have to be
closest. I'm going to guess 137.
137. Okay, Micah.
Don't say 138, you jerk.
I'm going to say, it's got to be people we know, though, right?
Exactly.
I'm going to say 13.
13?
Yeah.
The correct answer is 54.
Huh.
Sorry.
So I win.
You do win. You were way off still.
That's like me, basically. 13 is the equivalent of $1 for this.
Remember, there was a phrase, the fallen 50. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
But who can name? Do they literally list out all the names, or no?
Micah, we don't have time for this, but don't you trust me?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, there were a lot of
you should, because you guys are winning trivia every week.
There were a lot of unidentified people, but there were characters like Fred, Tonks, Lupin, Creevy, these others. And then, of course, there were some more. But yeah, 54.
Yeah, Roshni got
and
it
you know,
while listening. Isn't it the Fallen 50? Yeah, it is.
So how about this week's question, Eric?
Okay, this one's sort of easy for those of you who enjoy and often reread Order of the Phoenix, although there is a lot in there. What blemish does Hermione inflict upon Marietta Edgecombe for her misdeed?
Ooh, okay. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up in November, a couple of book releases. Fantastic Beasts Illustrated Edition is coming out very soon. I believe the three of us still need to order it. Comes out
I did
Tuesday,
already.
November 7th. You already ordered it?
Oh, I got to get on that. Micah, can you order it for me?
This happened last
You did
time.
you were totally responsible for me being able to talk on that main discussion a couple weeks ago, so thank you very much.
So how about you just do it yourself?
All right.
And later this month, this isn't on as many people's radars, but it is coming out for the holidays. It's called The Art of Harry Potter. It is exclusively concept art from the Harry Potter movies, along with some Mina Lima stuff. I actually have this already. They sent me a review copy. It is gorgeous. It is a coffee table book for adults. That's what I like about it. It's not like these other spin-off books that have come out because it focuses exclusively on the on the concept art. It's pretty expensive though. You can get it from Barnes & Noble for $70. I think the retail MSRP is closer to $100. But anyway, it's coming out November 21st, just in time for the holidays. We'll talk about that. I don't think MuggleCast has money in the budget to buy you two copies.
No,
so,
absolutely not.
Eric, you can just come over and look at my... Actually, I should have showed it to you. It was sitting right on the coffee table
Yeah,
when
you
you
should
were
have
over
shown
the
well
other
next
day.
time. Next time I come over to
He was
Pep
too
Brooklyn.
busy scratching Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Too busy scratching Brooklyn. Brooklyn distracted you.
But this reminds me of the book that Mike and I almost got made. To be honest, and it just shows how time changes and how if we were to push that same book, Micah, to publishers now, we would have not this, but also the illustrated Jim Kay books as examples of why our idea would have been so freaking popular.
What book did you two almost get made?
So there was a book. I guess talking about it might mean somebody wants it now. Publishers, please pitch us. But it was going to be actually so with Keith, formerly of MuggleNet, we had a book that was designed and orchestrated that was going to be Harry Potter's story told through the artwork of his fans. It was a book called Illustrious, like as if it were a spell, Illustrious, and it was fan art. It was fan art organized and shown chronologically for all 7 Harry Potter books, and it was in concept a coffee book table, a coffee table
book.
Yeah. And
that's interesting. I would have bought that.
At the time, we got a literary agent and shipped it around, and publishers said that there was nothing, there was no precedent. This was in the dark days when nothing was happening. Like J.K. Rowling hadn't even returned to Twitter yet. I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
That does sound like it could have been a legal nightmare.
Yeah, go on, Micah.
What's interesting too is that was definitely.
Well, we got releases from every one of the fan artists. Keith was diligent. It was really, really smartly done. But all we needed was
I was actually
referring to how Team J.K. Rowling would look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, what's interesting, like two things. One is that if you go to Pottermore now, it looks like they're actually going down the road of doing something very, very similar featuring fan art. And the second is that I still have all the stuff. So if we want to, get the wheels going again, and it was actually a lot of. I'll be honest with you, it was a lot of work.
Yeah, but those meetings that we had to organize and orchestrate chronologically was really, really smart. And a lot of the artwork was from 10 or 11-year-olds at the time. I mean, they'd be like 17 now, but it was really, really a special concept. And every time I see a new art book that's coming out that's just art that has existed for Harry Potter, I can't help but feel a stabbing pain in my side going, it should have been us.
Should have been us.
Yeah.
Well, until you guys get that book published, we have this cool Art of Harry Potter book.
Well, cool. Yeah, I definitely want to check it out. I'll come over and borrow it, and I'll lend you, I don't know.
Borrow it?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll lend you one of my books.
Just read it. Just read it over in my book. Lend you one of
Okay, you can.
I'll take your hollow Goblet of Fire.
Hollow Goblet of... There's stuff in there now. Wait, I actually have been looking for my passport, so maybe I put it in that Goblet of Fire book. Anyway.
All right. Let's wrap it up here. So we'll talk about the Fantastic Beasts Illustrated Edition, not fan art edition, on next week's episode, and we'll do some other stuff. We want to get back into some book discussions. I think Micah floated doing some Goblet of Fire book discussions.
Did I?
Somebody said that over text.
We'll figure it out. I want to do the Strike series. We'll have to get ready for that.
Yeah. Couple plugs here. We'd love your support over at patreon.com/MuggleCast. If you have any feedback about it, what we can do to convince you to sign up, let us know. We're going to be sending out stickers to the people who are still owed them very soon. We also have some signed album art that we'll be sending out to people. I know we owe some people those as well as we finish that benefit. We signed the remaining ones in Orlando, and we're going to be getting those out to people soon. But we would love your support. It keeps the show going weekly. Patreon.com/MuggleCast. You get lots of benefits, including a new bonus MuggleCast in which we talk about these comments from J.K. Rowling about the Deathly Hallows symbol and how it relates to her mother's death.
Right.
So also check out our website, MuggleCast.com. All the ways you can contact us are available there. And once again, our voicemail/text number is 1-920-3-MUGGLE. That's 920-368-4453. You can also tweet MuggleCast on Twitter. And please like us on Facebook, facebook.com/MuggleCast. We appreciate your support as always. Whee!
Whee!
Thanks everybody for listening. I'm Andrew.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Micah.
See you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.